Hello, I am so excited that I am starting something new. It's called the Eternal Possibility Hour, and it is profile interviews with ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things in the world. And I'm so excited to present today Heather Braden from Ontario, Canada, who is a certified yoga teacher and teaches a lovely chair yoga class on Fridays that I went to this morning. And she's also been doing this extraordinary thing and doing an automatic writing practice for the last 700 plus days, which is amazing. So let's bring her on, and we were just going to have a conversation, and I hope you love it. Hi, Heather. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for coming and joining me today to have a chat.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So I would first like to know, we're going to talk mostly about automatic writing, which is what I'm super excited about. But because I came to your chair yoga class this morning and I loved it, I really want to share a little bit about that, about your yoga experience and especially chair yoga. Why chair yoga? So tell us what you'd like us to know.
Hmm. Well, chair yoga is accessible to anybody. I think there is a myth that people think that chair yoga is just for old people and you have to be or in a wheelchair to participate in chair yoga, but it's not the case at all. Um, I love incorporating breath work and meditation and strength and balance and everything into the chair yoga with the option of standing up and doing the poses with the chair as a prop so that if you're really wobbly one day in tree pose, you can just hold the chair. And if you're feeling super strong, you don't need the chair. It's beneficial because you don't need to be down on the ground on your hands and knees. People with wrist issues, people with knees that hurt, sometimes it's easier from the chair. Um, but you still get all the same benefits as you do on the mat.
Great. So my experience in doing any type of chair workout is that it's a really great core workout. Is that true?
With the breath work, yes, because any breath work you get core. It's easy to relapse back in the chair sometimes and do nothing with your core as well if you don't consciously engage it. But for sure, you can still get core in the chair.
Yeah. So if you're participating, it should be a good core workout in addition to, yeah, just and
Yeah.
having the breath work.
You
That's
still
great.
get the strength and you can add your own resistance as we did this morning when you're pressing down on your leg and lifting it up at the same time. You can still work yourself pretty hard in a chair
All
regardless.
right. So if somebody wants to come to your chair yoga class, which is Fridays on Zoom from 9:45 to 10:45 Eastern Standard Time, right? Did I
Yes.
get that right? Okay.
Correct. Correct.
How would they find you?
If they're your people, they can ask you for my email address and send me an email. They can find me on Facebook as Heather Braden and just send me a little message and I will reply with a Zoom link. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Good to know. All right. So let's talk about your automatic writing. So you and I met after we both took an automatic writing seminar back in August 2021 with Mike Dooley and Sarah Landon. And then there was a Facebook group that spawned out of, so all the people that took that group were in this Facebook group. And that's how I met you. And it has been so fun getting to know you. And I have been so incredibly impressed by your automatic writing practice because, like, we both started out automatic writing and you have just kept going. I do some, but you are super dedicated and committed to it. So tell us about what that's like for you. And I'm particularly interested in if somebody listening to this video is like, what is automatic writing? What are they talking about? So just take us from the very beginning.
Well, when that course came around, it was kind of a dark summer in my life and there was a lot of challenges going on. And Mike Dooley's little advertisement came into my inbox and I was kind of like, what is this? And something just told me you have to sign up for this course. I really didn't know what automatic writing was or channeling was, but something told me just you have to sign up for this. And I think it was like $44 American. And I'm like, and then I'm like, just do it. So I did it. And from that day on, I haven't stopped. I think it's become a bit of there's something I call non-negotiables in my life, and that is one of them that has to take place every day because it just is so inspiring and keeps me going and gives me inspiration that I don't have on my own. You asked a two-part question.
So what's the process? So how did you start? So you go to this course and they're like, do this thing. What did you do?
So the instructions that Sarah gave us were to have a piece of paper and a pen. And she kind of just taught it like, just start writing. I personally now like to kind of calm myself, and I do not I do not do like a half an hour meditation before or go into any trance before or feel like I have to do all these special things before. Sometimes I find it helps me to do a little bit of breath work, either breath of fire or just calming, opening and pulling in, just breathing in really deeply and kind of connecting with myself, pulling inwards. And then you have the pen and the paper, which are two necessary things for this process to happen. Doesn't have to be any special paper, doesn't have to be any special notebook. For me, I found because it's a daily practice, I buy the cheap coil notebooks with lots of paper in them and then keep it together so that I don't have a whole bunch of loosely papers flying around my house. But yeah, I go into that kind of quiet space and just bring myself into the moment. Sometimes if people are comfortable and they believe in their guides and spirits and angels, they can send out a little message to them to draw in and connect with them. Especially if there's like an angel or you're wanting your guardian angel or you're wanting somebody special, then ask them to come in.
And then how do you do that? Do you just do that in your head or do you write it down?
I just do it in my head. When we took Michael Sanders' course, he had a big introduction of like a prayer that you say out loud, like he scripted it. But I don't think like people just trying this out, you do not need a scripted prayer. You do not need a magic potion. You do not need anything besides a pen and paper. But if you want to kind of play with your spirit guides or your soul or anybody, can just quietly ask them to come in either with your voice. I've heard from people that using your voice and actually vocalizing things out loud is a little bit more effective than just doing it in your head, but doing it in your head will still work. Sometimes I will write, truth, most of the time I will still write at the top of the paper, what does my soul want me to know? What does my higher self want me to know? What does my future self want me to know? What do my guides want me to know? Something of the sort usually still ends up at the top of the paper. People have a specific question, like they're struggling with a relationship issue and debating whether to break up or not break up. What does my blank soul guides, higher power, want me to know about this relationship? And then begin. But you might want to cue another question there. I don't know. I'm giving you a monologue here.
No, you're doing great. This is all great information. So what is the breath of fire? I think that's a yogic practice, right? So can you take us through what that is?
You want a breath of fire lesson? You missed it this morning, Esther.
I know we did, but our listeners were not with us. So let's tell them what the breath of fire is, because it's a really great practice. And it's a little intimidating at first because it's a little odd, but I think it's really, really helpful for moving oxygen in and out. I think that a lot of times we take shallow breaths as humans. And so really being able to center yourself and ground yourself and bring that breath in and out through the breath of fire is really helpful. So if you would like to teach our listeners, I really want this video series to be interactive and to really have people learn new things. So tell us.
Okay, so I'm totally happy to teach breath of fire. It is an energizing, stimulating breath. It will clear you. It might scare you a little bit at first because it is intense. So you're going to listen to your body. Sometimes I will tell my yogis to push through a little bit of the fear at first because the brain can get very busy and it can say, oh, I feel dizzy. Oh, this is scary. Oh, I don't like this. And then you don't get the full benefits of it, but at the same time, I want you to respect your body. So you might just challenge yourself to do an extra couple breaths each day. I can do a couple minutes now because I've been practicing, building my stamina. But if you want to try it with me, you're just going to ground yourself. Maybe close your eyes with me. Take a breath in and just let it out. Now, the premise of this breath, I'm going to open my eyes for a minute because I just want to talk to you again, is you're going to pump your belly. You're going to use your diaphragm like a pump. So you're going to breathe in, and then on your exhale, this breath takes place totally through your nose, and you do little tufts of air with the belly pumping. So it's like you're using your diaphragm. And you just let the inhale happen by itself. You are not consciously inhaling. You are just consciously exhaling little tufts of air. So join me. We'll just do 20 or 30 repetitions and you will feel something. Okay, close your eyes now. Breathe in. And then little exhales. Big breath in through your nose. Hold it. Soften your body. Hold your breath. Hold, hold, hold. Pull up your perineum if you like. Pull up your belly button into your spine. Breathe. And then just let it go through your mouth. And just open your eyes and see how you feel. You may feel energy shifting around you. You may feel yourself like, I just did something really weird and I'm dizzy, and you just ground back in. But that will raise your vibration. That will shift you for sure.
Okay, so grounding back in, if I just take another deep breath and let it go really slowly, would that do it?
Yes, feel your feet on the floor, or your sits bones in your chair, or your sits bones on the floor, depending on where you are. But yes, feel yourself, and then feel your physical body as well too.
Yeah, get out of that head and bring yourself back into your physical body. So when I did it, that was really helpful when you showed the camera and showed your stomach, your abdomen actually moving like that. It was super helpful because when I was doing it this morning in class, I got a little confused about what was happening there, and it feels a little jumbled. So at first you can feel a little jumbled about like, what the heck am I doing? And it's just really just a concentration of really just having your concentration on your abdomen, at least it is for me, and really feeling that in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And that kind of aligns it and makes it super easy.
Yeah, I'm going to say feel the out and don't worry too much about the in, but it's definitely a belly pumping.
Yeah, cool.
Just have fun. Like you guys can Google breath of fire. It's called Kapalabhati breath, but I'm not going to try and spell it for you besides the K-A-T.
Yeah, breath of fire, you'll definitely find it. And if you even put breath of fire yoga in there in Google or whatever search engine, you'll totally find lots of examples, and I'm sure other YouTube videos about how to do it, practice it. Yeah, that's good. So when you so how I learned, and I think this was part of the practice with Sarah Landon, is so it's just another way to address getting into that automatic writing frame, is to just imagine yourself in your head and then bring your attention down to your heart and then start writing. And so what happens when you start writing?
I love that you're sliding down into your heart, because in a way I am out of my head. So I think it's important to say that this is not you consciously trying to write something on purpose. If you start writing and you've never tried this before, and you write at the top of the paper, what does my soul want me to know? Or what do my guides want me to know? You take a breath and you just start writing anything. And you start anything. It might even be, this is stupid. I don't know why I'm doing this. I watched this video with Esther and now I'm trying something and this is not working and I don't like this and I don't like this at all. But the goal is just to keep your pen writing and just see what comes down on the paper. And it might feel like it's totally in your head. But the fun thing about it for me is I might start and then it spirals into something that I have no clue and I don't even know what I'm talking about. But
and what do you do when that happens?
Keep going.
keep going. And how long would you suggest for beginners especially to like start writing? Is there some time limit or page number or something?
I'm not going to put a number on it because I read somebody that said that you had to write at least 3 pages before you would be connected for sure. And I don't believe that to be true. I don't think you have to write X number of pages or X number of minutes. I think my recommendation would be to just have fun with it. Give yourself at least 5 minutes, I would say, in the beginning, because you might hate it. There might be a thing of like, I'm blocked, I can't do this, nothing's coming through. And then the frustration hits. But just keep playing and let it be light, let it be playful, let it be joyful. Even if nothing comes through, start writing something silly and just see what happens, as opposed to crumpling the paper and saying, I did my 5 minutes, I hate this sort of thing.
That doesn't sound fun. All right, so if I can summarize, it sounds like getting out of your head and really approaching this practice with a sense of curiosity and willingness to actually sit down and try something new, and open-mindedness to say, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. I think a lot of times when our brain gets involved, it's because we have this preconceived notion or expectation that something is going to happen, or something specific will happen. And then when that doesn't happen or something new happens, the brain goes like, ja, 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 ja. And it's a lot of noise, lots of noise. So it sounds like having an open mind is super helpful, and really just allowing yourself to experience whatever happens. Would you say that's fair?
I would say that's totally fair. And I would say there is no wrong. Nothing that appears on your page is going to be wrong. So if you approach it with curiosity, my guide said something funny the other day on the paper. Can't remember it exactly, but it was something like, it's backwards in the dictionary, but curiosity should come before criticism or critiquing.
Mm,
So if you can
mhm.
kind of allow yourself to be curious and allow yourself to play with it and allow yourself to just have nothing on the paper like that means anything, and for the first while, and just keep playing without any expectations of, I'm gonna get this grand poem written, or I'm gonna get this grand publishable piece written that is like perfect. Oh, P.S. The other rule is, if we're looking for like a little bit of rules, spelling doesn't matter, grammar doesn't matter, punctuation doesn't totally matter. You just go with it, and you don't go back and edit or worry about it if it is not something that you think would be perfect.
That's really good. And I think that's a really great kind of rule to put in there, because that takes the brain out of it. So your brain's gonna be like, well, is that a question mark? Is that does there be a comma? Did I spell that right? And like that just takes you right out of being open-hearted and connecting to that kind of your inner wisdom that's coming out on the page.
And I think that's why, for me, I'm not 100%, but I have this hypothesis that that's a part of the reason why I don't do it the same when I type, because I can get into the zone and I can connect in and get going. But then I think I'm so aware when I hit a wrong key or something happens and I want to backspace, and like my head totally wants to get involved when I'm on the keyboard. And there is something very different for me when I have the pen and the paper.
I agree. And I think I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think a lot nowadays, a lot, not us, because we're a little bit older, so writing longhand is something we grew up with in school. But a lot of our listeners may be a lot younger, and then you're starting out grade school. This is Misha. She'll probably be joining us quite a bit in these interviews. Um, but a lot of people grew up having computer keyboards just automatically, or phone texting, and being able to do it really fast. And so I think that's a real key question for people who are starting automatic writing. Oh, can I do it on the computer? Can I do it on my phone? And what would you say?
I would say yes. Any amount of playing with it is better than no amount of playing with it, to me. Um, and maybe the younger generation is wired differently than my old brain, that maybe they just will connect in the same way. I remember Michael Sanders saying, and I can't quote it, but there was some like black screen with red lettered type that you could use on your computer and not have the black, like the glaring white paper. So it would kind of keep you more in that mode of being quiet.
Yeah, I think it's a dark mode or a night mode or something that you can put in your. I've never found it, but I remember him saying that. And Michael Sandler is, I just to cue people in, you can Google him. He has all kinds of videos on spirituality and connecting to your higher self, and especially on automatic writing. But he specifically taught an automatic writing class with Mike Dooley. And Mike Dooley, tell us about Mike Dooley, because you just took a training with Mike Dooley. So tell us about Mike Dooley and how fabulous he is.
I don't want to get this one wrong. Mike Dooley is a wonderful soul, and I've taken a couple of his courses online, and I love, love, love that. Sometimes he will have a pay what you want or pay what you can sort of thing, where there's a scale with different options that you can pick. My first initiation to Mike was Sarah London's course, where I met you, Esther.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the second one was Michael Sandler's, where I kind of followed up. I'm like, I want more of this. Like it was, I wanted to go deeper and figure out what other tricks and trades there were to learn about this. But yeah, Mike is a big, I kind of think of him as like the guru from The Secret. If you've ever seen that, of like the manifestation and thoughts become things, and what you think about is what you will draw into you, and the magnetism of you and how powerful you are in the creation of your own life.
Yeah, and he does, and I'm going to link this down below in the little description of this episode. Mike Dooley does these fabulous notes from the universe, which really are channeled information. And so I wanted to get into that because you've mentioned guides and angels and guardian angels a couple of times, and also the word channeling. And so, first of all, what if I can hear somebody watching this at some point saying, what are they talking about? Who has guides? What are angels? What are they talking about? Spirit guides? What is that? That sounds kind of woo-woo and out there. So talk to us about spirit guides and angels.
It's so funny because when I reference a lot of the quotes, like my own little personal notes from the universe, I don't usually say it as my guide said this. In real life, I'll just be kind of like, yeah, this. And then sometimes in yoga, I will say, well, my pen said this, because they are a little more likely to understand my pen. Though my yogis are pretty tuned in, beautiful souls. But yeah, I'm more likely to say my pen than my guides. But my guides, I believe, are a team of spirits who are with me to support me, and who are with me all the time and will come in when I ask them. And like angels, I believe that they wait and they watch. And then if I ask, be like, hey, come and help me with this, please. Then they are able to step in and they are able to support me. But if you want, you know who's a genius with the guides is Sonia Chocat. Have you heard of her?
Yes.
She's got a book called Ask Your Guides. And I've taken a couple of her little tiny online things where she talks about there's a finder guide, there's a helper guide, there's like guides for everything. Parking, parking spot guide that you're supposed to ask when you go into the parking lot and there's no spots.
Yeah, I took her angels and guides workshop with Mike Dooley, and she is amazing. And I will also link to her down below so people can find her, because yeah, she is fabulous. I'm glad you brought her up.
So I would say if you want guides information or angels, she's one, mostly guides with her, is what I think about. But yeah, she's another one with intuition and trusting yourself and going along with Mike's theories.
Yeah, that's good. So do you have to know who these guides and spirits are?
No.
And they have names like Frank and Joe.
Secret, I'm kind of ticked off that some people seem to have a name for their guides and I don't. And I'm like, how have I been connecting with these people for like these guides for like over 2 years and they're not telling me who they are?
Does it matter?
No.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter. It's just a personal thing of like, how do the other people know? And I'm just getting these mysterious words that I'm not writing, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that spirits, so spirits are just etheric beings, like we are beings in human form, but spirits are etheric beings in with no human body.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe you too.
Okay.
Wisdom, like, I think they traded their body for extra wisdom.
I love that. So, what is channeling?
Channeling, I think, is basically just disconnecting from your mind, allowing the wisdom of your soul, of these etheric beings, to flow through you and onto the paper or out your mouth.
Oh, so written automatic writing can be channeling and then also verbal channeling. So just speaking channeling.
Hmm.
Yeah. So how many, do you know how many kind of episodes of automatic writing, like how many days you've kept that going?
I don't know how many days, but I can tell you because I haven't counted. But I can tell you it was August 10th, 2011 that I started. And I can tell you that today is April 7th, 2023. So every day in there. And some days I've done one in the morning and one at night. So that's why it's hard to like number because I number my channels, but I'm at like 835, but it's not 835 days.
Oh, okay, yeah. But 835 channels is pretty impressive. And what's like your average, just as an average, like 2, 3 pages, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, that exactly. I
That?
would say my average is 2 to 3 pages written without big margins, single spaced. Um, Probably 20 to 30 minutes with the whole practice. But I don't like to have to put a time limit on it. I like to do it when I don't have a stopwatch going because I find I'm in a different state if I'm worried about getting somewhere or needing to leave for something. It just pulls my head out of it.
Yeah. So and then we already talked about that. The head getting involved is never a good idea.
Yeah, I should have said it puts my head into it. And I
Right,
don't want to
exactly.
be fully present watching the clock and worrying about things.
Yeah, that is not a good state to be in. And so do you have any recommendations about at night or in the morning or when you wake up or in the middle of the night?
I think that I think my answer is whatever suits you best to start. Um, like I said, with the computer versus the paper, some is better than none. So if you're not up at 5 in the morning when, say, Michael Sandler says, this is the best time to channel, get up at 5 in the morning. Well, that's not important. There's something that has been said and has been told to me that the best time to do this is between 5 and 7 in the morning or the last thing, like at midnight at night, late at night. I don't totally, well,
No,
the
I'm
truth
asking about your practice, so tell us.
truth, I do it every night at bedtime. That's my non-negotiable. And it's a wonderful way to just, I find, pull me in and get me to be quiet. And I find there's no problem getting any information at bedtime. But truth, I also find sometimes I'm tangled and upset with something in the middle of the day and having a really hard time with something. And if I can just go and pick up my pen, and at first I had the thought that like nothing's gonna come through because I'm not a high enough vibration. I'm never gonna connect in with anything, and I have all this negative self-talk going on. But then I pick up my pen, and it's like, whew, and all of a sudden I'm feeling better because they're so sympathetic and beautiful about things. And then it's like, oh, so I would say, in short, any time is better than no time. If you can bookend your day with it and either read it in the morning or write it at night or vice versa, it works.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Sarah definitely emphasized during our Art of Channeling course was reading it out loud afterwards. Either that at the same time after you write it, but then I would actually read it out loud the next morning. So then I had it at night and then in the morning and then write again at night. But I think that's really important. It's really important from my perspective because it brings it into reality. So it's always nice to have all these things in our heads. If you're reading silently, it's kind of just stays inside of you. But then when you actually hear your voice saying it out loud, I find that it's super helpful. And it's also super helpful for even just understanding, because my experience with it is that sometimes they're channeling things to me through my pen, as you say, on the page, that it's new information. So I find that while I'm writing, I'm hanging on every single letter and saying, "Oh my gosh, what's going to come next? What's going to come next?" Because it's brand new information to me. And sometimes my brain, and I want to know if you have this too. Sometimes I write my brain in the background, which your brain doesn't shut down completely, right? Our brains are always there. But sometimes my brain will be like, "That doesn't make any sense. Where is this going? That sounds kind of odd." But if I just keep going and then I read it back later, or especially the next morning or that next night, I'll be like, "Oh, that's really deep. That was amazing. I'm so glad I didn't stop." Has that happened to you?
With the confusion, I don't know about the really, really deep part, but for sure with the confusion part of like what is going on, because my head is still there. So, guys, you are not physically leaving your body. You are not going into some sort of like trance, spooky state or something. But I will say with me, when you ask me the next morning what I wrote the night before, sometimes I might not be able to totally remember or bring it all back to you. So I think Esther's words of like, read it over, go back to it at a later time and look at it, because you might not totally remember it or pick up the key points in that moment.
So you talked about getting advice about your life, and especially when you're in a kind of a negative thought loop going on, and then sitting down, and then you feeling better. So what is it about it? What information are you getting that's actually helping you?
It depends on the situation, if I'm totally honest. But
You have an example?
I think the best thing it does for me is it kind of calms me down, because the beings that I'm connecting with, or my pen itself, does not have the same harsh critical voice that I have within me. So the critical voice is going on like crazy, the should haves, could haves, stupid me, what am I doing voice. But then I pick up the pen and it's like, well, have you thought about this? Or breathe. Like my pen will tell me to just breathe and allow, and to be present with all that's coming through me. And I think one of its favorite sentences is all is well, all is well, all is unraveling, just as it was intended to. And then I'm like, huh, sure doesn't feel like that in that moment, but it brings me back to me.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a really great way to have a perspective shift. And it almost sounds like if you were talking to your most loving human who had zero criticism in their body, zero judgment, then that would be the voice that you're speaking to. Does that sound right?
Yeah, but they will also call a spade and tell me when I'm carrying all the rocks in my backpack instead of putting them down, for example. And they'll
So
be
they're
like,
not letting you get away with stuff either.
no, they don't encourage the negativity or doing the same thing over and over and over and over again when it's not the best thing that I should be doing over again. But they're very gentle about it, and they have ways of saying things in different ways and using different analogies that just kind of tickle my brain. And I'm like, that's so true, but I wouldn't have thought about it that way. I would have never come up with that by myself.
Okay, so I think this is the perfect time to give people an example.
Misha's ready.
Misha's got some issues.
Misha, are you ready for this? Are you listening?
All right. So Heather, I asked Heather to pick one of her 800 and some channels that would be really excellent for all of you to hear. And I'm so excited about the channel that she's going to read for you. So sit back and relax, and we're going to hear from Heather's guides.
Alrighty, so sometimes when I type them up, which has been rare, but I typed this one up and I called it mirrors. Oh, P.S. The other thing that shows me that my guides are writing is they use a lot of words like dear one. And I do not write saying dear one. So that kind of gives me a hint that it's not me. So yeah, breathe, land, and enjoy. Greetings, dear one. Allow yourself to land and breathe into this present moment, recognizing it as the present that it is. Breathe in light, connecting you with your source and all that it is, and allow yourself to feel the connection. We realize you often feel disconnected, and we want to honor that feeling, for it feels very real. Breathe into it and allow it to expand, and then allow it to dissipate. Can you see how that which is true and real, like love, will expand and support you, and that which is an illusion will fade away when you try to get up close? Can you see a house of cards? One little puff of air, and the whole structure collapses into a heap. Tap into your heart when you are in doubt, for your heart will always know what is real. Shine your heart light out, and in doing so, you will see what is true for you. Picture a house of mirrors at the fair, and notice what happens when you explore. In one room, you are short and fat, and a few steps later, you are tall and pencil thin, and 3 more steps to your right, you look, and a portion of you has disappeared. When you are in this house, it can become very difficult to discern the true you. Dear one, this is what happens when you disconnect from your soul. Everything becomes blurry and distorted. Keep pulling in light and allowing yourself to settle into the truth of who you are, a being of love and light. When you are able to see this and accept this, you will notice the resistance slip away as you start to enter into the flow. Dear one, when you live connected to your soul, you will easily see others from a soul perspective. All the static and surface muck will disappear. The judgments you find occurring will begin to quieten, and you will see the light ever so clearly in others. Can you see how others are simply mirrors of you? When you connect with another, you see within them what is reflecting out from you. Think of times when you have felt irritated by another being. This is all fine and expected, for it is a part of living in the human condition. We are simply wanting you to be aware of how another can reflect your light as well as your shadows. They both exist within you, for you cannot have shadows without the light. Be gentle with this awareness as it lands, and allow yourself to play with noticing if things shift when you show up fully connected to the light of your soul. When you show up authentically and open and connected to your soul, notice how others respond. Do they reflect back light and a sense of grounded connection? Dear one, do remember that you can only ever be responsible for yourself, but do take note of the mirrors around you, for they give you information. They are like antennas saying, lighten up, or release that feeling of insecurity. For those that feel a little like sandpaper within your field are coming with a message for you. Feel the frustration and then shake it off and jump and move your body to release it. There is more than just a cliche in that saying of shake it off. Do this literally, for it will release the energy. Then allow that beautiful, quote, irritating soul to be in your heart in order to tap into the message they are reflecting back to you. Pull into the feeling and notice it. Hold it within you for a moment with awareness. Is it fear? Is it jealousy? Is it guilt? Allow it to land and be held in your light. These beautiful humans that you find challenging come with gifts. We realize that often the gift is not always something that immediately appeals. Receive it anyways and thank them, recognizing that they have entered onto your path for a reason. If you can, send them love remembering the mirror and trusting that it will be reflected back to you. Keep your heart open, dear one, recognizing that some people may have a lock on their heart or a shield of armor which may deflect your love. This is fine. Do not be upset, for you know about the shield. Send them love anyways, trusting that in time it will find its way inside. We encourage you right now to associate with those who are able to reflect back your love, for they will support you on your journey. When you feel that spark of, quote, no thank you from another's energy, simply send them love and gratitude and go on, shining your own heart light and connecting with your soul. We encourage you to live from a place of openness, reflecting back love to those who cross your path. When you are connected to your soul, the foggy and wobbly funhouse mirrors will melt away, and you will see others and yourself with clarity and love. You know about the ABCs, dear one. What if it was really that easy? Allow, believe, connect, and you will find yourself showing up authentically with love. This is the true journey of realizing and becoming you. Allow, believe, connect, and love. You're muted, my love.
There we go. Thank you. That was amazing. That came out of your pen?
That came out of my pen. And as I was reading it halfway through, I'm like, maybe I should have picked one of the earlier ones. And then I just had to cancel or delete that thought, because this might not come out of your pen on the first time you try. It might, but it might not. So just allow yourself to play with it. This was number 672. So I just kind of went randomly in the middle and grabbed one that wasn't all about dirt and mud, because I have a lot of those as well. But yeah.
Are the ones about dirt and mud helpful?
To me, yes, because I know a lot about dirt and mud, and I know a lot about getting caked in mud and falling down in the mud and living life in the mud. So to me, they have been really helpful, but I've also been grateful to see that they've been transforming, and they're not all about dirt and mud and moldy grapes anymore.
That's good. So you're noticing a change. So they don't always talk about the same thing, is what you're telling us.
I'm telling you, no, they don't. But I'm telling you, my guides are super creative about talking about, like, those people that bear gifts that we don't want. Might be your ketchup in your Rice Krispies, or they might be like, yeah, the rock in your backpack. Like, they have all these different ways of framing the same thing. So when I'm struggling with the same issue repeatedly, they still support me with it, but in different ways.
Yeah, and I think that's so beautiful, because don't we all as humans need to hear everything like 10 or 12 different times in different ways from different sources before we're actually like, oh yeah, that would be really good if I did that.
Yeah. And they remind me time and time again that people are human, and no human is going to know you as well as you know yourself. No human is actually going to be able to 100% understand you. And I find like my pen 100% can understand me. Sometimes I don't always like what my pen might say, or I might not be able to digest it in that moment. Like that thing I told you about yesterday, that, or like from last week, that totally confused me. And they're like, when you're saying, or when you're debating what you're deserving, if you're deserving or not deserving, you are deserving yourself. And I'm like, wait, I don't get this. Like, I don't even know what this means, but I don't always like it, but it's always something I need to hear or ponder.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So helpful to have that access, and not have to pay a psychiatrist or psychologist to, either talk to you for a couple of years, and who doesn't really know you actually. I mean, you know yourself best. And psychiatrists and psychologists absolutely have a part in the world, and they're super helpful for what they do. But that in conjunction with this can be super powerful.
If you had a psychologist who understood this and you could like talk openly with them, and you could take your messages or share your messages in a way and be like, they said this, but I don't get it. Like, that to me would be so beneficial. Or to have
Yeah,
a partner that you could kind of bounce it off of if you felt comfortable enough.
I agree. So have there been any real life like mirrors to what's happening in your channels?
Can you say that a
So
little more clearly?
you were telling me that you either write a channel or something happens and either shows up in the channel or you write a channel and then something happens 2 days later. Do you have one of those examples that you can share with everybody?
So weird. That seriously just like spooks me out when that happens because I don't get it. It's like mysterious. But they say that time is like time, it doesn't exist. So something that was written later or before, like, yeah, it just doesn't line up. I think my most recent example was writing a channel and all was well, and I finished and put it away. And then 2 days later, I'm reading this book that I'm working through called Living Untethered. Highly recommend it. But the chapter was like exactly my channel. Like, so weird. I can't explain it, but I'm like, why am I reading what my pen just wrote? Like, not word for word, obviously, but the exact same concepts.
Yeah. So I think that's so beautiful. And that's part of this whole process is really understanding that we're not alone in this universe, that there are all these like etheric beings that we cannot see and not to freak anybody out, but that they're helping us. And you had mentioned it earlier on that we have to ask for guidance. So that's what makes this not scary at all. Because if you're not asking for guidance and for help from these etheric beings, they're not going to bother with you. You're just going to go on with your life and drink coffee and go to work and drive on the highway and go swimming and go on vacation and you're totally fine. Free will, right? Free will. But if we're asking for help, they're available 24/7 and not a single human is excluded from this.
Hmm.
So
I
that
believe
is
it.
amazing. That is amazing.
And if you're scared of the etheric beings kind of thing, like if that doesn't agree with a religion or if that doesn't agree with something that is within you and it just feels wrong, play with your higher self. Be like, what does my higher self, what does my future self want me to know? And start there. Because maybe
Yeah.
that feels a little less scary than what do my guides want me to know or what does my spirit team want me to know. If that's scary, start with yourself.
Yes, and your higher self is the part that loves you unconditionally and is always with you, always and always, forever and ever. And so that is your best source of advice anyway, to really just go inside and ask yourself. So do you have anything else that you would like to add or tell people about your experience?
Curiosity before criticism, play, have fun, and don't judge whatever shows up on your paper. Just allow the process, allow yourself to take time with it, allow yourself to write a paragraph one day and just be okay with whatever shows up on the page.
Yeah, and I would say not to give up.
Yeah, me too. Because I was not writing mirror channels at first. I was getting little bits of wisdom, and sometimes you might get like, this is garbage. Why am I doing this? This is stupid. I'm wasting my time. All these sentences written out on the paper, and then in the middle, something that says, you are doing so well. And we're like, wait, what? Like, just play with it.
Yeah. And it's good to, especially in the beginning, because that does happen in the beginning where you're just getting a kind of a bunch of mishmash because your brain and your heart are kind of fighting for control there. And so when you get those parts that say you're doing really well, or I love you, beautiful soul, or dear one, keep going, maybe even just take a highlighter and be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then focus on that. Let all the rest of it just don't even let your brain get involved with anything else that's happening that isn't just beautiful and supportive and loving and wise, because that's how you know that it's your higher self speaking to you or your etheric guides and not your ego brain who's trying to have a control moment.
Do you remember Sandler saying, if you are doubting or if you are feeling frustrated, you take out another piece of paper and you write on that piece of paper like the ego dump. And you write everything that your ego wants you to know about how stupid you are with this mistake that you made, this thing that you did. And I would do that. And then I would find like 3/4 of the way through the page, all of a sudden it would flip and I wasn't writing consciously anymore. And I kind of got frustrated for a minute because I felt like I couldn't do the ego dump like I wanted to do the ego dump because my pen was getting like hijacked. But yeah, it's a thing you can do. You can purposefully do that and then take a big breath, crumple that paper, and try again. And just let it this time. Now it's my spirit's turn because my ego just had a turn.
Yeah, I love that. That is a wonderful tip and trick for people who are beginning their practice of automatic writing. Really, really great. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Heather, for coming and sharing so openly and so beautifully and sharing your beautiful channel with us. I am delighted to have heard in detail about your practice because I've been wondering and wanting to talk to you about this for a long time. So thank you so much for coming. And I want to thank all of my listeners because this is episode number 1. So all of my listeners who are listening to this episode and all the listeners who will be listening to episode 50, I'm so excited that you are here and that you tuned in. And I hope that you learned something. And I hope that you are opening your mind to new and different ways of being in the world and being more loving and supportive to yourself and every human. Do you have anything you'd like to say to close, Heather?
I'd just like to say, if you're still listening, thank you for showing up. Thank you for being you and have so much fun with this. Sending you guys lots of love.